Freaky Friday is intended for adults and is a show featuring adult conversations. Topics may vary, but are focused on human sexuality, fetish, and topics of intimate nature. Some may feel uncomfortable watching this show, and some topics may take you out of your comfort zone. We encourage everyone to stay and learn, as we hope this is an educational show, but stress that viewer discretion is advised. And if a topic makes you feel uncomfortable, please do not continue watching. Welcome to Freaky Friday. Welcome to Freaky Friday, where we dare to talk about taboo topics like fetish, bondage, sex, vibrators, and more. This isn't your dad's Friday night programming, but your mom loves it. Welcome to Freaky Friday, hosted by Mister AnderSiN, who is the unboxable, uncanny advocating creator known as the indie comics devil, who will tempt you with his devilish tales of fetish, monsters, and more. Also the giver of free hugs and spends. Everyone watching this program will get virtual free hugs and spends. It's time to get on with the show. Welcome to Freaky Friday. Hey everybody, welcome to it. We're in August. That's right, we've made it. This show is intended for an adult audience only. Hello everybody. I have been on the road, just got back from Tampa Bay Comic-Con. Got some exciting news about that. BarbaraUNLEASHED, COMiX Unleashed. And we're going to be talking about relationships tonight. So I wanted to do a deep dive in that. Figures the perfect time to go over relationships, the different types of relationships, and even my future plan for relationships creatively. And you guys get a little personal insight into me today. So let's start off by actually playing you something I think that's hugely important. So I'm going to back out and I'm going to play you a video, and I want you to really hear this, and I want you to kind of digest what he's saying. So I'll be right back.
2-week engagement. We'd actually had this big blowout fight, and at the end of the fight, she said, "I want to join the Peace Corps." I said, "I'd like to go with you," and we were married 2 weeks after that discussion. Needless to say, we were a bit young, a bit naive, and not really ready for what we had gotten ourselves into. So many of the practical conversations that people had before they get married, we hadn't had. We had more instances of looking at each other like, who the heck is this person next to me, than we could count in those first few years. And it was after one of those moments that I was feeling frustrated and met up with an old counselor friend of mine. I told him, like, look, the marriage I thought I was going to be in, the agreement that I thought we made doesn't seem to be like what's happening right now. And I'm not sure this whole thing is going to work out long term. And before I could even ask him for advice, he looked at me and said, well, maybe you should just break up with her. And I remember looking over at him and saying, like, really? You're a counselor and that's your advice? At which point he looked back and he said, look, relationships are all based on contracts. Some of those contracts are written, like your marriage license, and some of those contracts are unwritten, like who takes the dog out in the morning. But all those contracts are based on human beings, and human beings are constantly changing. So it only makes sense that you would change those contracts as you change as humans. The only problem is you get so tied into how the contract was supposed to be, or how you thought it was going to be, or how it played out in your head, that you don't see there's other options. Which makes you feel like you only have two: either stay in this contract that doesn't work for you, or leave. And I looked at him and said, so I should leave? And he said, no. The breakup I'm talking about is an acknowledgement that you both are becoming new people. Which means you're going to have to step back a bit and maybe start dating. Decide mutually what that contract is going to look like in the future. And reintroduce yourself to this new person. So I went home and I told my wife we were breaking up. Only I did it a lot better than my counselor friend and told her that maybe we should renegotiate this and start dating again. To which she replied, great, you're sleeping on the couch. And I did. And in the course of 18 years of marriage, I've slept on the couch and broken up and had to start dating again a number of times. But every time that's happened, I've got to reintroduce myself to this new, evolving, amazing person that I've gotten a chance to spend 18 years with. And we've both come to understand that there is no way you have to do it or you're supposed to do it. There's the way you get to do it. And we write that contract together. And that advice to break up has allowed us to find numerous ways to stay together.
So, powerful stuff, right? Kind of makes you instantly rethink of your relationships. If you're anything like me, I've got a cool overlay for us to use, and we'll get rid of this spot. So I wanted to talk about a lot of stuff. So let's start off with, let's just go to the basics. Relationships, even relationships aren't what we've been told they were. We're raised in America, for the most part, that you have to fall in love, marry one person, stay with that one person the rest of your life, and have kids and get a white picket fence. That's the thing we're told we have to do. Truth is, it's never really that simple, or it doesn't have to be that simple if you want to be something, a different relationship. There is something called, and this is not polygamy, it's polyamory. Polyamory is a relationship. The interesting thing about polyamory, and we'll do a show dedicated just to polyamory. And by the way, before we go any further, I want to acknowledge who that person who just gave that amazing video to us and shared his experience. His name is Brian Fretwell. You can find him both on TikTok under that name, and all of this is in our actual description of today's video. Definitely subscribe to his channel. I know I have on TikTok, but he also is the founder of peoplestrength.com. Change your conversations, change the world. I thought this was a beautiful video, so we're giving him all the credit. It's in the actual body of the text or the description for tonight's show. All right, so polyamory is the basic idea that you don't have to just have one partner for your entire life. You have multiple relationships at the same times. Every person's going to set this up differently. I have been in polyamory relationships, and I have found failure more than success. But guess what? I found more failure than success in monogamy relationships. After all, I'm divorced. So relationships, I guess, are what you make of it, if we're being honest with each other. So in my life, if I can have the opportunity to meet people, that I can continue to meet people and stay with people and enjoy that experience, that's awesome. I think that that's great. And I don't know how it's going to always work, because you don't always get to know who you're going to run into. You leave yourself open. Now, there's a difference between this and swinging. Swingers are a relationship where you just go out and you just have as many partners as you want sexually. Look, we've shamed people for this, but I don't think we should shame people for this. The most important thing, and the thing that's in the BDSM survey that is most important to me, is the fact that we make sure that we acknowledge, we have to acknowledge that by doing these relationships, we have to be so open. And the BDSM survey allows that openness. But I've been really thinking about this. And recently I've begun a relationship with a new submissive. She's going to be my submissive. I am mentoring her currently. And we have gone through the paces. So here's a little different between the normal relationship the vanilla community has, or the vanilla world has, versus the BDSM lifestyle or community, or just you got a kink and a fetish and you want to make it clear. Of course, I use my BDSM survey. So basically, in the vanilla world, stop me if I'm wrong here, guys and gals, you meet someone, you talk for a while, and you stick things in each other. There's not a lot of conversation about what you sexually like, what your expectations in the relationship are, and all that stuff. So there's kind of a failure aspect, in my opinion, right away, that you're going to hit a wall. Instead, in the BDSM relationship, with my new submissive, we sat down, and I even learned something. We sat down at a place. It happened to be like a Barnes and Noble, and I wasn't aware of my surroundings, because I do these panels and all that, and it doesn't make me feel uncomfortable to talk about these things in public. I think I'm more mindful if there's any young people around, but if there's just adults around, I really don't care about talking about the topic. But I was made aware that there could be a discomfort by having the conversation there. Going somewhere louder was better. So we went to a diner, and sat and we had a meal and we discussed things. This is all before any play had happened, any touching had happened, and there's so much that we discussed going into it before anything could even begin. And that's what's great about the BDSM survey. I'm going to be taking the BDSM survey. The BDSM survey itself will now have a sequel. It'll be the BDSM relationship. I'm going to spend the next year writing about BDSM relationships and relationships in general. And we're going to call it the BDSM relationship because, of course, it's the sequel to the BDSM survey. It will take some aspects of polyamory, and I'm going to be looking into that. I'm going to be studying it even more, and I have studied it already. We're going to be talking about threesomes, swingers, the vanilla relationship, monogamy. We'll go over aspects of that, and the advice that we just heard will be put into that. And that's why I believe the BDSM survey is so important. Having that conversation now established framework for a relationship between me and my submissive now. And we have an understanding of each other. And there was a comfort there right away when we're ready to take it to another level. And that's the point. You're not just jumping into things. We also have agreed upon meeting up with each other and having conversations as the relationship goes on at designated times. Within the first month, I encourage every night, within the first year of a relationship with anyone in the BDSM lifestyle, if you will, you want to check in with the person at least every 90 days, if not sooner. Now, I'm not talking about the small little conversations. No, I'm talking about going back to that diner, sitting down, taking out the survey and going back over things, especially if someone is being mentored by you. Now, some people might go, well, how can you mentor someone who's your submissive? There is a difference. I can be a mentor to a person and never interact with them. It could just all be just mentoring them with my knowledge, conversation, helping them having a soundboard. I can mentor a person by showing them things, but never actually having any type of sexual relationship with them, mean just showing them how it feels to be tied up. You can intermix. I can have a mentorship and a play partner within that person. So I'm not only training them, but I am also, we're having play. And then you get to define, and having someone as a submissive or a slave, those are a little deeper. It gives you permission to do more stuff, and it involves things. But all of this requires deep conversation and understanding. Some people think that if you're going to mentor someone, you can't mix and match. My personal opinion, as long as you're being honest with the person, you should. Because to me, if you're going to dominate someone, and it is your job, the dominant role is the one who has to educate the submissive. But I also think the submissive needs to educate the dominant, hence the BDSM survey, hence the constant conversations and feedback. So the BDSM relationship will go back into how to have these conversations, where to have these conversations, when to have these conversations. We'll talk about the different dynamics of every relationship structure, and we'll go through the journey with Barbara. And eventually, who knows, this might be a trade. We'll also be updating the BDSM survey. So some exciting news. Barbara Unleashed is going under COMiX Unleashed. We didn't think that was going to happen until 2022. Turns out we're running out of Barbara books. The last couple of shows we've been at have been pretty good for Barbara and her series. We're not going to make the end of the year, so we're going to be releasing it. So we are going to be looking back into it. The BDSM survey probably will have a revamped version for 2022, but later this year, there will be COMiX Unleashed, Barbara Unleashed copies. So that's pretty exciting news for everyone who's been watching. So you guys see it on the screen. This is the last opportunity. I won't even mention this again outside of this show until it's released under COMiX Unleashed. Last time, $24.99 for the entire series. That is shipped. So there's no shipping on top of it. You guys can get the first issue, which is Fetish Babies. The second issue, which is Aftermath, which deals with the aftermath of the events of issue number 1, where she actually feels like she's had something stolen from her fetish. The third one, Mentor Search, where she decides she's going to get her fetish back and wind up getting a mentor, ironically, because, we're talking about mentors today. And then how that works. And the future series will begin in 2022 as well. And, of course, the BDSM survey. So relationships are definitely something that is tricky, and you need a lot of communication, as we saw in the video today. back and forth matters. Having conversations matter. Understanding your partners matters, especially if you're going to do polyamory, which again, if you guys want it, I'll do a show just based on polyamory. Because I think polyamory can work, but you have to be with the right people. We'll go over jealousy. We'll do a whole thing on polyamory, maybe even this month, maybe in September. Tell me what you guys want. And let's talk more about relationships. We can do, of course, a sequel to this video if you guys want. We only touched a bunch of stuff. I do hope that you take the idea that Brian gave us with breaking up in your marriage, but not breaking up with the person, but taking a step back, being able to reevaluate. It's exactly what we do in the BDSM community. So that's it, guys. I want to thank you for tuning in. And this was not live, by the way, so I will get back to your comments as soon as possible. Thank you, guys, and I will see you on the Comic-Con highway as we go to MegaCon on the 12th through the 15th.